Welcome to the Hmong Peeps Show, the one and only show that brings you ordinary people sharing extraordinary insights. Well, maybe. Here is your host, Chew Effin Lee.
Hey, what's going on, people? This is Chew. Welcome to the Hmong Peeps Show. Today's show is going to be a little bit awkward, I guess, for me because I'm actually recording this earlier in the morning. I usually do my shows or record my shows later on the day, so maybe I might sound a little bit groggy. So forgive me for that if it's annoying to you. Or it might sound better, I don't know. But anyway, I wanted to do a follow-up show to the previous show talking about suicide. And I guess I wanted to talk about the spirit aspect of it, what happens to spirits who commit suicide. So some of these spirits, we have to understand that it's a case-by-case situation. Not all spirits, when they commit suicide, are stuck. It depends on the intent of the suicide. And when I say intent, you think about some people who just don't appreciate life and are very selfish when they commit suicide. Those folks, those spirits are usually the ones that what they would call earthbound, and they're stuck where they commit suicide. Some spirits are able to be, I guess, saved, if you want to call that. But some spirits are more difficult to save when they commit suicide. And again, it depends on the intent. Now, if you think about suicide, let's say if you're in a situation where you're held hostage or something, and the people who are holding you hostage tells you that you either kill yourself to save your family, or your family's gonna die and we save you. And what's the intent behind that? The act of killing yourself. So do you see how that might be different from someone who just is ready to just give up on life so easily? So yeah, the intent is, to me, the most important piece of what happens to your soul or your spirit. Also, another important piece to what happens to your spirit is based on your faith as well. I think a lot of spirits who, when the people that are going to commit suicide, those that don't have a faith, when they commit suicide, they are more prone to be stuck on this earth. Even though on the spirit side, they're a spirit now, but when they do that to themselves and they don't have a strong foundation of faith, they're more vulnerable, prone to be stuck and be miserable. Those that do have a faith, it doesn't guarantee that they are going to be saved right away neither, because some faith and some religions, they really frown upon committing suicide, but then again, they are easier to be saved as well. And in these situations, when you are encountering spirits who commit suicide, sometimes the spirit can be very angry, upset, or just miserable. And the ones that are miserable are the ones that usually cause a lot of noise, havoc, poltergeist activities. And then also, sometimes when you are in a house where there's history of somebody committing suicide, that house is more prone to be haunted as well. And sometimes that act of the suicide becomes what most people would refer to as residual energy, where you might witness an apparition or an event play out in your house, in the area of your house where you see that person either commit the act, or you might see that person after they've committed the act, such as you might see a spirit roaming around your house with a gunshot wound, or um, whatever, however they went out, and that can be very, very scary. Okay, so remember, it's a case by case situation. It's not a one size and one shoe size fits all. Remember that when people, choose that route, it depends on the intent of their, of why they choose to kill themselves. Another interesting, I guess, way to look at it is, we think about war, especially during the Pearl Harbor incident, right? You have these Japanese soldiers who are pilots, I should say. I guess they call them kamikazes or something like that, where they fly their planes into certain targets, right? And it's because they're doing it for their country. They're doing for their honor, or whatever they want to call it at the time. Those, I don't know. I've never encountered any spirits that have committed such an act for the country. You hear about like these extremist Muslims, right? Where they bomb themselves, they blow up themselves for, there's many reasons. A lot of it doesn't make sense to people who don't share that faith, but in their little group or their community, it makes sense for them to, sacrifice themselves for their belief and their followers. And I guess some of them believe that once they do that, they go to heaven, and they're heaven at least, and they are rewarded with a lot of virgins, for the men. I've always wondered, and maybe you guys can, teach me something here. What about the women suicide bombers? When they do that, do they get just as many male virgins? I don't know. And it's not a joke. I'm like really serious. I wonder what happens. So it's the intent. Just remember that. For most folks who don't have a faith, when they just do that, it's more of a tougher situation to help that spirit cross over. I've seen spirits who have committed suicide because they just had it with life, and they wanted to just leave. Those spirits, are the ones that I've encountered. They are miserable as far as like just living sadness over and over every day, every moment. And those spirits, they're mostly stuck where they died, and it's hard to explain, but it's not a pleasant experience when you encounter these spirits. They're very draining, and you just want to get out of that area and remove yourself from that spirit. Most of the time they can't follow you because they're stuck there. So I guess that's a good thing, right? But when you encounter these spirits, they just are so miserable, so sad. A lot of them have regrets, and a lot of them don't have regrets, but they're just sad and miserable. I can't really use any other words to describe them. But the ones that, let's say, the ones that kill themselves because they want to save their family. I've never encountered one. I wonder, what are they like? Are they miserable, sad? Do they get some kind of reward because they sacrificed their own life for someone? I mean, when you talk about sacrifice yourself for someone, you're willing to die for someone. For example, and we see this in the movies all the time, right? Where there's a oncoming car that's speeding down the road, and then somebody is in the way of that car, but then another stranger or somebody else runs and pushes that person out of the way, and then they get killed. Was that really suicide? I mean, technically, no, right? But they were able to get to a point where they were willing to die to try to save someone. So does that really mean that they are stuck? No, I don't think so. Um, so the main point here, folks, is every situation is different as far as like taking your own life. Yesterday, somebody posted a comment on my previous video. Sarah, hi Sarah. It looked like she spent a lot of time and put in a lot of thought to provide that comment, which I appreciate, by the way. And she mentioned some things that I thought was worthy of pointing out. And I think a lot of us don't think of it too much unless we've been through what she's been through. I don't know the details of her, her experience, but from what I can gather, and Sarah, you can provide a comment to correct me if I'm wrong here, but she mentioned something about, being like not liking to be on this planet anymore, on this earth, because of all the cruel things that's going on, which is how humans treat each other, right? I've met a few people who share that similar experience where they just feel like there's really nothing here for me. I can't stand being in this world because of all the horrible things that's going on. Sometimes I honestly feel that way too. You know, human beings can be very, very cruel to each other. I think we see that every day on the news. We see in the media all the time, and it's very heartbreaking for someone who is very spiritually enlightened, because we're all about love, right? We want everybody to love each other and teach love, but we can't reach everyone. There's been millions before us who've tried to teach this simple concept, but yet look what continues to go on. There's just so many horrible acts that happen every single day, and for some of these very sensitive people, spiritually sensitive people, it can be extremely overwhelming for them. They don't want to deal with it no more. It's just way too much for them to feel and to see, that they just want out. So I thought that was interesting. Some of us, we think and we associate suicide with just the medical model, which is the depression and anxiety and possibly other mental health diagnoses. But there's also other things that might be going on as well. We also have to think about suicide, and I'll get back to Sarah's post, but I just wanted to say this before I forget. Possessions. We hear these stories about how some people can get possessed by a demon, and that demon will make this person kill themselves, whether it's to jump off the building, shoot themselves, hang themselves, man, you name it. What happens to those spirits who are possessed and then they kill themselves? Is it really, is the outcome really them being stuck? Now, from what I've seen, is some of these spirits who, were possessed when they were still having, when they still had a body. The scary thing is, in some of these situations, the demon holds that spirit hostage. And it's also a very sad situation. It's very sad. And not every gifted person or any gifted person can go and release the spirit. It takes someone who is, I guess, it's their expertise, if you want to call it, who will be able to go and release that spirit and help that spirit move on. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of intense and scary work. I guess that's the best word I can use at this point. But yeah, so think about that too. You know, when people commit suicide, it's not always just a mental health issue. It can also be something very spiritual that gets overlooked easily. Okay. So going back to Sarah's post, I think it's something worthy of paying attention to and kind of being aware of that. You know, when you hear about people wanting to, you know, exit, maybe they're just really tired of, you know, the cruelties that's going on in this world. And who are we to say, oh, don't do it, right? I mean, ideally, we don't want anybody to hurt themselves or encourage them to hurt themselves. You know, I think the human part of us, the part that is loving and caring, we don't want them to do that. But in their situation, they see that it makes sense for them to want to leave due to their human experience, and they are just tired of it. And she said something which I'll try to quote correctly here. She said something about, I don't cry for the dead, but I cry for the living. I think that summed up very well about how some spiritually gifted people grieve and mourn the loss of someone that's close to them. Because you know, I think I've mentioned this before in a previous show where some people think, you know, Chu, you can see spirits, you can connect with them. So if somebody close to you pass away, why would you, if you can still see them, why are you so sad? Well, as I mentioned in the previous video, I'm sad because of the physical aspect, the physical relationship I had with that person. And I'm also sad because of the relationship that person had with others. Because that physical touch, the physical presence will no longer be available. So that's a huge, huge loss. I mean, just think about it. Somebody that you may have had a very strong and good, positive relationship with, and you know they were always there to either give you a hug, shake your hand, go out with you to dinner, or you know go meet up for lunch or whatever, consistently, and then all of a sudden that's taken away. I think there is a huge, huge loss as far as like the physical aspect of it. So when we, most of us, and I can't speak for everyone, every gifted person, but a lot of us gifted people, when we experience a situation where somebody close to us pass away, whether it's through suicide or some other natural cause or even homicide, it's a physical shock. It really is. It's a physical shock, and not just to us, but to those that knew that person. And we can feel very, very deeply that sadness, not just from ourselves, but from others who are mourning the loss of that person. So don't make fun of other gifted people and say, you know, why would you cry? You can still see that person, right? So why are you so sad? I think that's very unfortunate. It's very ignorant to assume of a gifted person. We are still human beings too. Remember that, okay? So Sarah, I know you deleted the post before we tried to communicate with each other. Maybe there was a misunderstanding, but thanks for sharing your post. I think we really need to see that other side of why some people would want to leave this plane and move on. All right? Okay, that's it. I hope this was helpful. It's early in the morning for me to be doing a show like this, but hey, I did it, right? Today's Friday, and guess what tomorrow is? Tomorrow is going to be a retreat. So those of you who are listening to this show right now, and it's not Saturday yet, I'm very excited, and I look forward to meeting all of you. Remember to wear something bright. Okay, I'll explain to you guys tomorrow. And also, I witnessed some funny things that occurred the last couple of days while I was at my cousin's house for the I guess you want to call it the vigil, and I will share that with you guys tomorrow at the event. Okay, so that's it. Have a safe and fun weekend. I will talk to you soon. Take care.